Doing this job is not for the faint-hearted. It takes dedication, courage, and strength. We endure all kinds of challenges.
Hiyo ndio sababu mimi natoa shukrani kwenu kabisa kama wananasa.
To bring you the most credible news. We thank all our viewers for their commitment. NASA TV is a people-driven channel, meaning our content direction and style comes directly from our viewers. We would like to appeal for your help to NASA TV to boost and improve our standards. You can contribute directly to NASA TV by donating to Airtel Paybill number 555155. Support NASA TV. NASA TV, mambo yabadilika. Doing this job is not for the faint-hearted. It takes dedication, courage, and strength. We endeavor to appeal for your help to NASA TV to boost and improve our standards. You can contribute directly to NASA TV by donating to Airtel Paybill number 555155. Support NASA TV. NASA TV, mambo yabadilika. Doing this job is not for the faint-hearted. It takes dedication, courage, and strength. We endure all kinds of challenges.
Hiyo ndio sababu mimi natoa shukrani kwenu kabisa kama wananasa.
To bring you the most credible news. We thank all our viewers for their commitment. NASA TV is a people-driven channel, meaning our content direction and style comes directly from our viewers. We would like to appeal for your help to NASA TV to boost and improve our standards. You can contribute directly to NASA TV by donating to Airtel Paybill number 555155. Support NASA TV. NASA TV, mambo yabadilika. Doing this job is not for the faint-hearted. It takes dedication, courage, and strength. envoys, namely
Yes.
Robert Godek, the U.S. ambassador, and others.
Yes.
But before that, we have to, of course, and Miguna Miguna.
Yes.
That's where we have to start from.
Mm.
The Miguna Miguna saga, all the way to his deportation, you are on the front line. This discussion begins at Githunguri police station.
Yes.
There's that, during that interview that we had, there are those remarks you made.
Yes.
And the whole internet was on fire.
Mm.
Were you afraid at that point?
No, I mean, I wasn't afraid. One of the things that I know is that fear is the tool of the oppressor. The oppressor would like for people to be afraid. And when you're afraid, then your voice is muzzled.
Yes.
You're not able to speak your truth. It becomes difficult for you to state what it is that you believe. So you cannot be afraid. One of the things that I say is that if something is true in Bungoma, for instance, the sun in Bungoma rises on the east and sets in the west. Even if you go to Kiambu, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west.
Right.
So if something is true universally, it doesn't matter where you're standing. It will not change. The truth does not change depending on where you are.
Yes.
So if it is true that while we are seated here in Nairobi, Uhuru is a dictator, then even when you're in Kerugoya or Githunguri, you say it as it is. I mean, it is still the truth. So people might react differently to it, but it does not change the fact that that is the truth.
Yeah, I mean, on one side were cops who are also whispering that you're not in a very safe place.
Yes.
And on the other side were people that I think were ferried.
Yes.
And it could be true, they could have been armed and they were baying for Miguna's blood.
Yes.
And they didn't quite like it when you said Uhuru was a dictator.
Yes, I was a bit surprised because I thought I was talking to members of the media. And, immediately I said what I thought was a universally acknowledged fact now. Then I heard voices from the people who were interviewing me. I was a bit shocked. But it is what it is. I mean, that's not the first time I have found myself in such a situation with Miguna. You remember just a few weeks ago, we were with him in Taita Taveta at a courthouse there, and immediately the High Court threw out the petition challenging Governor Samboja's election. Election petition. We faced a very hostile crowd outside. Actually, my car was stoned while we were leaving Taita Taveta locals. Hey, these are things that we are used to, so we're not very afraid when we see even political mobilization. What surprised me is that the reaction of the police is not like anything we see whenever what are considered our strongholds behave in the manner they do. Because I even raised the issue with the OCS of Githunguri police station. Right. How is it possible for you to allow these youths who have very obviously been mobilized in ferry to cause problems here, to light bonfires right outside your gate? Even in our strongholds, I am sure if we tried something like that, you would see claims that our supporters were storming the police station, and there would probably be at least shots would have been fired. Absolutely. I mean, so this is one of the things we have seen it before. There's very disproportionate application of the law, depending on which side of the divide you support. But if that is the case, then it is our responsibility still to tell that truth to them, because the police will never tell them, and their peers and their supporters and their friends, they will never tell them. It is our job to tell them.
Wow. Let me just go through some quick comments. Nyambati Brian, watching from Kitui, thank you. Jeremy Victor Juma, awaiting for our general phase 2. Now, back to the general. Before that though, what does that say then about this notion that has been created, that NASA and NRM is a violent outfit, compared to what we saw in Githunguri? It was almost a collaboration, a very well choreographed.
Absolutely.
I mean, does it mean that this has just been talk?
For us, we're very clear that the state has decided to step outside the constitution in order to deal with dissent and the fact that they have failed to acquire legitimacy despite all their efforts. We know for a fact that Matiang'i overstepped his mandate when he went ahead to declare the NRM as a proscribed entity. And it didn't surprise me then last week, I think it was Thursday or Friday, when the High Court actually quashed that decision of his. So as we speak right now, if you are a member of NRM, be proud to say you are a member of NRM. The High Court has thrown out that nonsense that Matiang'i was trying to bring and say NRM is an outlawed group. So far, even if you ask the police themselves, which is this criminal activity that NRM has ever engaged in?
Right.
Not a single case has been brought to before any court that I know of attributed to members of NRM misbehaving or breaking the law. So this is political suppression. Of course, they are trying to look for ways in which they can, delegitimize the activities of the opposition. But we are telling them, we know this law.
Well, maybe Mheshimiwa, resisting some products like like the ones that were listed
that is a genesis
could be now defined as a criminal offense.
No, it is not. I mean, purchasing a product is a choice, and even then, we only make suggestions to our supporters. We never force them. We don't follow you to your supermarkets to find out if you are really not consuming Bidco. We make a suggestion. We say we have laid a case, a basis against these companies, Bidco. We have laid a case against Safaricom. We have laid a case against, which is this other one?
Well, there is Safaricom, there is
Brookside, there is
Bidco, there is Brookside, and now Hako Tigers.
And Hako Tiger. We have laid a case against them because these are people or companies that are directly funding the dictatorship. So we have said that if you are a supporter of the NRM, if you are a supporter of the opposition and your president is Raila Odinga, please do not fund your own oppression, because the money that you give to these people finds its way to the pockets of Jubilee. It's the one that buys tear gas and live bullets, kill our people. So, I mean, it is not something that we force our people to do. We make the case and we make the suggestion to the people that as a resistance, this is one of the tools that we want to employ. No one has been hurt physically since we announced the boycotts. People are boycotting with their money, and it is your money, it's your hard-earned money. You choose which companies to give your money. Right. Yes.
Wow. In case you're just joining us, this is Opinion 2018. We are joined by lawyer Edwin Sifuna, who's also, well, many people call you senator.
Yes.
Mamake Amina Abdul Malik watching from +966 pamoja kama ulimi na meno NASA Tibim. Stanley Mutavi, kindly as you await our general phase 2, can Mr. Sifuna, a proud NRM supporter, when is our government getting formed? Well, he's going to be addressing that. Vivian Musungu, I have a soft spot for tough-talking persons like Sifuna. Well, I don't know. Very well. We appreciate that you're watching the show.
Yes.
No, General Miguna Miguna.
Yes.
I want to believe that perhaps you may have a bit more information than the other lawyers that were following up on this matter.
Yes.
In general, what really transpired?
Yeah.
Right from the way police came into his house and took him away. And there's this term that is now becoming common. You know, with Miguna, terms come up every day. He's being held, he was held incommunicado.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, when you are held incommunicado, it basically means you are held without access to your lawyers or to family. So nobody is in communication with you. That is where the term comes from.
Right.
The fact of the matter is that I believe up to until the time when we were at Githunguri police station, it was clear that following the High Court order, they were probably going to release Miguna at that particular stage. But speaking to the DCIO at Githunguri and the OCS, it appears that they were waiting for an order from someplace else to release him. Because even for the police force, and I want to tell the people who support NRM and NASA, that not all police officers are bad. In fact, the police bosses have put their juniors in a very difficult and awkward situation. If you speak to the regular police officer, he understands that once you show him a court order, he has to comply with the court order. But he is put in a situation where he needs to receive another order
from somewhere else.
Somebody who has decided that he is above the court and above the constitution. So it was a bit ridiculous, because when we got the court order and served it at the DCIO offices at Githunguri,
Right.
it was clear he was going to be released. I mean, you were there and you
Yes,
saw they brought
yes.
him out from the cells. They said they only needed to process him for court. They took his fingerprints and
Yes.
all the documentation was done. Then all of a sudden, an order comes from wherever it came, and he's put back in the cells. I mean, so, and even after that, when he was transferred to Larry,
Yes.
we knew he was transferred to Larry because of NASA supporters within the police force. They are the ones who are giving us this
Are
information.
you saying, Sifuna,
Yes.
that there are police officers
Yes.
who are pro-NASA? Is the police force divided?
It's not really being pro-NASA. It is being pro-law. They are law-abiding police officers in this
Right,
country.
right.
People who would not stand for what was happening. I mean, they could not understand because they arrest criminals every day. They arrest people who are alleged to have committed crimes every day. You could see even some of them wondering, even just allowing his lawyer to speak to him. When we were in Larry, some were openly expressing shock that we brought 2 doctors to see Miguna to ascertain his status of health.
Right.
And the police were refusing, the OCS and the DCIO was refusing to have grant access to the doctors. So there are police officers who genuinely respect the law, want to uphold the law.
Right.
They are tired of the blanket victimization of the police force, and they played a very critical role, even in providing information to our team on the whereabouts and the well-being of Miguna Miguna.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
yeah.
if we didn't have those eyes within the police force, I believe we would be talking about something else right now.
While you're at that,
Yes.
that bit of the lawyers, the doctors not being granted access, Moses Kuria
Yes.
tweeted, and this is what he said.
Yes.
He said that Miguna Miguna, people are complaining that
Yeah.
Miguna Miguna has been denied access to healthcare.
Yeah.
An inhaler, actually.
Yes.
And Moses Kuria did say
Yes.
that,
That I should inhale
yeah,
it
you
in-
should inhale on his behalf.
Yeah.
That's what lawyers are for.
But you know, I don't consider Moses Kuria a human being because the kind of language that he employs, the way that he talks about other human beings, the way
Right.
that he has no compassion, absolutely. And I believe that as a human being, the moment your compassion leaves you, it's like your soul has left you. You're no longer a human being. You're just a thing.
Right.
Because you will remember, even with Chris Musando's death, he was making light of a very serious matter.
Yes.
And when the Chris Musando turned up dead, I mean, he received widespread condemnation even from members of parliament from Central, including my friend Kimani Ichung'wah,
Yes.
who said that honestly, at a certain level, we might be politicians and we are playing to score points against each other.
Yes.
But whenever human life is involved or invoked, even for me, if I was in a position to save Moses Kuria's life, as a human being, I have a responsibility to save his life.
Right.
Although we do not accept or agree on anything, when it comes to our shared humanity,
Yes.
you must show humanity if you are a human being.
I mean, that was really a low moment.
No, but for him, really, it is expected. I mean, that's not the worst that Moses Kuria has said or done. I don't personally consider him a human being because he has no humanity.
Wow. Let me just go through some few comments here. Jefferson watching from CBD, and he's saying he's a member of NRM.
Proudly.
Proudly so.
Thank you.
So now from Larry,
Yes.
now to the courts. We are
Yes.
still on Miguna.
Yes.
The whole media, the entire media fraternity that was covering this event went to the courts. And then all of a sudden, there were reports that Miguna is in another court
Absolutely.
in Kajiado. So what
Yeah.
transpired at this stage?
I mean, for us, we know that what the police were trying to do is to ensure that whenever, if ever, Miguna appears before a court, his lawyers are not present because we would be able to bring Miguna up to speed as to what other orders have been issued by the High Court sitting in Nairobi.
Right.
So that is the reason why you are allowed under the Constitution under Article 49 to have access to your lawyer to advise you on the events and how the law applies in that
Yes.
particular circumstance.
Right.
So the fact that he was taken to Kajiado, first of all, the fact that it is a secret which court is going to be taken is an obvious attempt to circumvent his rights to legal counsel. Luckily, or for us and unluckily for them, Miguna himself is a lawyer. So he gets there and he is aware of the court order because I showed it to him in Githunguri. And he tells the magistrate, I am aware that the High Court has issued an order for my production before that court in Nairobi.
Yes.
So why am I here? And the magistrate also, because there are judicial officers who are aware of what the circumstances of this case were, very rightly directed that Miguna cannot take plea in Kajiado, that he should take where? He should be taken to Nairobi. Now, these people had been defeated because from a legal standpoint, first of all, they were never ever going to charge Miguna in the event they produced him in Nairobi. Right. Because it is impossible for you to violate somebody's rights under the Constitution. You remember the Constitution is clear. You have to be produced before a court of law within 24 hours. So once you violate that Constitution, what right do you have to ask of the court anything? Number two, you are already in violation of a court order. So you can't come to ask the same court to jail somebody for a crime he allegedly committed when you yourself are not respecting what the court is telling you. Right. So that is why these crooks decided somewhere between Kajiado and Nairobi that this guy was going to be deported. And I want to thank the NASA supporters who even tried to follow the vehicles that were transporting Miguna from Kajiado. We have our youth leader, Jonah, who did a fantastic job throughout the weekend. Right. Yeah, and somewhere along the line, because those people, they drive quite badly. They lost our team, and we didn't know where he was going until we heard that he had been put on a KLM flight to Toronto.
Very well. Now, the deportation.
Yes.
The council representing the DPP said there was an order,
yes,
deportation order that was signed by the cabinet secretary, that is one Matiang'i.
Yes.
And now his citizenship.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the constitution does allow for dual citizenship.
Absolutely.
So how do you deport a Kenyan?
Well, Baggy, you see, if you start to look at this issue from a legal perspective, you will not understand why these people did it. Because there is absolutely no legal justification for what they did.
Right.
Everything that has happened to Miguna must be seen through the prism of politics. This is political. As you said, there are some people that abhor the truth. They don't like the truth at all. And Miguna speaks a ton of truth. Every time that he opens his mouth, he's telling truth to power. So people grew very uncomfortable with him here. And they knew for a fact, because we live, not because of the benevolence of the dictator Uhuru, but because we have a constitution that we gave unto ourselves that protects us all. Once you claim protection of that constitution, these crooks don't know what to do with you. So it is something that cannot be looked at from a legal perspective, because even the deportation order is only applicable when you are not a citizen of the republic. So they wanted to deport him, but they didn't know how to do it. So the first thing to do is to claim that somebody who was born in Nyanza, or to Kenyan parents, the first thing you do is to claim that he's not a Kenyan.
Well, there have been explanations that he renounced his citizenship some times back and got his passport through the back door when Otieno Kajwang was immigration minister.
No, that's neither here nor there. First of all, you cannot renounce your citizenship. If you are a citizen by birth of this country, it cannot be done. Number two, he himself has clarified that he never did it. Number three, he has challenged those people who are making those allegations to produce evidence, because you don't renounce citizenship by whispering to somebody's ear. You fill forms. If there's anything as serious as that, surely there would be documented evidence showing that you have renounced your citizenship. So where is that evidence? They don't have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, you're watching Opinion 2018. We are happy to have lawyer Edwin Sifuna. We're just going through the motions about Miguna. Let me just go through some of your comments. Brian Bai, watching from Embakasi. We are proud of NASA. We have tired of oppression from Jubilee. Somebody here is saying, when is our president forming his cabinet? Well, are people making applications?
Yes.
Emily Mokaya, forcing NRM members to support the so-called government is like forcing a lady to get married to a man she's not interested in.
Yes.
NASA Tibim.
Yeah.
Do you think at some point there was an intention to kill Miguna Miguna?
I think that has always been our greatest fear. And especially for us as lawyers, we have a very, very difficult experience in this particular line of thinking. You will remember, I think it was 2016, when one of our colleagues, Willie Kimani, disappeared from the courts and he was picked up by police officers. And we went through the same motions. We went to court, got production orders. The IG, as usual, was being as dodgy as he always is.
In a meeting,
in a meeting. We went to his office and he even ran away. We asked him, surely we have come as lawyers dressed in suits and ties. We are not carrying stones. We are not armed.
Yes.
Why would you run away from a pack of lawyers?
Yes.
What is the worst that they can do? The worst they can do is to serve you with a court order.
So
when you meet a mob baying for your blood, what will you do? And we were lucky. We accosted him in his VIP lift and spoke to him and told him, Chief, we have this order from the court for you to produce Willie Kimani, dead or alive. And believe you me, a few days later they called us that his body had been found in some river in Oldonyo Sabuk. So it got to a point where we were genuinely worried. And we knew that the legal options for these people were, being exhausted by the hour. Because even as you can tell from the way they behaved, they knew for a fact that now that they had stepped outside the law, somebody who decides to step outside the law has no limit. They could very well decide to go to the extreme and harm the general. But all is well that ends well. We are happy that Miguna was unharmed and that he is alive and that he will come back to this country to continue the fight for electoral justice.
Now, let's look at a war that is simmering. I mean, it's now evident that the judiciary, which is one arm of government, and the executive are not singing the same tune, at least from the same hymn book, so to speak. This contest, executive versus judiciary, has the executive become big-headed? Is the judiciary now belittled? I mean, a lot of Kenyans are asking, is probably a court order is only worth the paper that it's printed on?
Yes, and it is clear from the behavior by the executive, it is not only in the Miguna matter. We have a history with this despot called Uhuru. From the previous administration, you will remember there were quite a number of court orders that he actually just flouted openly, and even flouting of the constitution. Number one, you will remember there was a time when police recruitment had been stopped.
Yes.
He woke up one day, ignoring that court order and issuing a directive that the cadets should report at Kiganjo. There was also the court order by the Supreme Court, I think it was the Court of Appeal, to pay teachers. You will remember that fight. And he said it openly, that hiyo karatasi ni yao. Sisi hapa hatutafuata hiyo mambo yao. He disregarded the court order. So it is a continuation. It is not something that he has started before. They started
Open the servers.
Yes. Even the order for opening of the servers, the IBC openly refused to comply with that order. So it is something that has built up to the place where we are now. Even with the order to reopen the TV stations, he refused to comply. Wangusi went to court and obtained an order saying he should not be, he should return to work as a director general. When he gets there, he finds these goons, the same people who abducted Miguna. They are now the ones manning the gates at the competition authority, and he could not get in, and he has a court order. And for us as advocates, it's very, very frustrating when you get to a point where you have 5 court orders for the release of your client, but it still doesn't secure his liberty. You know that the country has gone down to the dogs. And Uhuru has made sure that he has emasculated the other arm of government, because you will understand that in a democracy such as ours, we have this so-called 3 arms of government. Parliament is supposed to be an independent arm of government. Of course, that is where they started. Jubilee started by emasculating Parliament.
Yeah, I mean, Parliament is full of young guys like you, Sifuna.
It has nothing to do with youth. You see, it has something to do with what material are you made of? Because it is not possible to just emasculate everybody, even if they are young. For instance, I doubt that Uhuru would emasculate me. If I was a member of parliament or if I was senator for Nairobi, I know my role, he knows his job, everybody does their jobs. If we have gotten to a point where the president cannot allow members of parliament to vote on members of a committee of parliament, in fact, at the beginning of his parliament, he read to them a list of all the positions of parliament, from the speaker of the Senate to even the deputy minority whips. And he came down to even dictate. You remember when Alfred Keter won chairmanship of a committee, and he said, remove these people. So, first of all, the MPs have no independence. Parliament is...
so, Parliament is done. And unfortunately, they're the representatives of the people. Most unfortunately.
Absolutely. Now, he has come to the judiciary. And to ensure that this is the final, this is the final hurdle in his quest to become a fully fledged dictator. And what we are telling the Chief Justice is that he must come out very strongly For instance, we were suggesting to him, if these people do not obey court orders, let them not bring any matters to you. If, for instance, the police have refused to release somebody upon an order by the court, then the police should not prosecute anyone, because the courts should not be open to people who disobey them. They should be able to say, we are not going to listen to any police cases until you comply with the court order. The High Court summoned the IG over 3 times. He never showed up. He claims to be in a meeting. Which is this meeting that is more important than a summons by the Constitutional Court?
Someone else was supposedly in an operation in Bonnie Forest.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Sifuna, when you say goons who abducted Miguna,
yes,
are you suggesting that we have a thug organization within the force? I thought a police officer by law ought to identify themselves.
Yes.
I am officer so-and-so from this and this station, and I have this order either to search or to arrest you. So when you say goons, are you saying now the IG may not even be in a position to produce the officers who are in that operation?
Baggy, we know many of our members of a police force are actually professional police officers. He will come dressed as a police officer.
Right.
You can be able to recognize this to be a police officer. He will identify himself as a police officer and tell you the reason why they have come for you. Now, when you see people who come and use explosives at your door, before you knock a door, you have used an explosive just to extract somebody from their own house. There is no other description other than a goon. That is not a police officer. Yeah. So we know that there is an elite squad, and if you look at even the newspaper reports and the information that we have, is that there is a unit that has been carved out, incorporating members of the flying squad and some members of the DCI. Those guys, even if you see them, they don't look like police officers. I have seen them myself, because I remember when they arrested TJ Kajwang, and they were taking him from Milimani courts to their offices here in Milimani. I sat in the same car with TJ Kajwang. Those are not people, you would not identify that person as a police officer if you were asked. From the way they dress, even their physical stature, if you look at the hair, the manner of dress, you would not tell that these are police officers.
Your colleague, during the last court session, when Justice Kimaru made the other order that on the 15th, the IG and the Director of Criminal Investigations should appear before him in person.
Yes.
Your colleague, Cliff Ombeta, asked the court, and I quote, to bite. Now, supposing the IG does not appear in court on the 15th as ordered, what measures can the judge take? I mean, if I obey a court order and I'm found in contempt, what is the punishment stipulated by law? The punishment is you go to jail for 6 months, and that is what we expect him to do. We want one of these people to just be taken to that same jail they were holding Miguna, so that they understand that it is not a joke. And in fact, when I was up country over the weekend, people were asking me, you know, Sifuna, even if the court made that order, there would be no one to arrest Boynet. And that is why we said as NRM, we should be able, because we are entitled under Article 3 of the Constitution, all Kenyans have the powers to enforce and defend the Constitution. So if his friends in the police force will not be able to arrest IG, we as NRM should be ready to arrest him as citizens. So you're saying if a court, if an arrest warrant is issued against the IG and the Director of Criminal Investigations, citizens should enforce that order if the police are not. If the police are not able to do it, we as NRM will do it. We will arrest them, because we know for a fact under Article 3, every Kenyan has a duty to defend the law and the Constitution. Number 2, any person who is aware of a court order has a responsibility not only to obey that order, but to enforce it. Very well. This is Opinion 2018. We are talking to lawyer Edwin Sifuna, and he's made it clear, if an arrest warrant is issued against the IG, supposing they don't appear before court as required on the 15th, it is the citizens' responsibility to enforce that order. Sifuna, will you not be calling for war? Which war? I mean, citizens versus police. I mean, I suppose they'll be defending their boss. That's what you need to understand. It's not the police, and I've told you, many police officers in the Kenyan police as we speak right now want to be law-abiding. They hate the manner in which their bosses are ruining the perception of a force. They work every day for the image of a police force.
there have been so many efforts from many international donors and friends and organizations, civil society groups, to work together with the police so that the police can generate some level of rapport with the public. And it is good for even police work. But there are few people, for instance, if an order is brought to arrest the IG, and it is a court order by the High Court, I don't think there's any police officer who will stand in the way of Kenyans who want to arrest the IG.
Wow. Let me just go through some comments here. Rita Ratemo, Viva Sifuna. Eddie Baba Mwangale, come baby come. Okay, there's some comment here about Moses Kuria. I don't think I can read it. Christina Omondi, some people will have a special place in hell. Well, let me not get into that. Wakili, another issue, the foreign envoys. U.S. Ambassador Robert Godek and others appear to be on a collision course with Kenyans, with the NASA coalition leader Raila Odinga. They have asked him to acknowledge Uhuru as the legitimate president before there can be any dialogue.
Firstly, I don't think there's anyone within the NASA coalition who's waiting for dialogue. We don't want dialogue. Dialogue over what? We have our results from the 8th. We have sworn in our president. We have no we are not bothered. I mean, if it were possible for us to live without these people being present in our lives, the Uhuru and Jubilee Brigade plus Godeg and his ilk, I think Kenyans would be very happy. One of the things that was clear from the swearing-in ceremony is that if NASA members are just allowed to do their thing on their own, it's very peaceful, everybody lives happy, nobody is hurt, no property is damaged, everybody goes home. And that's the country we want to live in. We want these people to leave us alone because we do not recognize Uhuru as our president. He has his supporters and we respect their choice to recognize him. As far as I'm concerned, there's nobody who's waiting for any dialogue. We have moved on as a country. We are moving forward as the NASA leadership to unveil our cabinet. And if you listen to people, people are saying it is better. Even I as Sifuna, I'm a lawyer, yes. But I would rather be a sweeper in Raila's government than be a cabinet secretary in Uhuru's government. So the jostling for positions, I'm telling you, the jostling for positions in Raila's cabinet is even more intense than what we saw with Uhuru. No, personally, I was eyeing a docket, but there's too many people who want a docket.
No, Sifuna, I don't think I heard you well. You said you'd rather be?
I would rather be a sweeper in Raila's cabinet than be the head of public service in Uhuru's. I don't want it.
Well, people have declared their interests. Babu Owino says he wants the interior ministry.
Yes.
TJ Kajwang has said Chief Justice. So which one is yours?
I was eyeing Justice and Legal Affairs, but I am facing very stiff competition from my seniors who have also exemplified themselves very well. The negotiation is just now for recognition of youth in Raila's cabinet, and that might be my pass into getting that position.
Well, in case you're just joining us, we're almost getting the tail end of this program. This is Opinion 2018, and we're joined by lawyer Edwin Sifuna. And yes, what an interview it is. Let me just go through some of the tail end comments. Collins, I'm your supporter from Nairobi, Sifuna. How far have you guys gone to bring back the general home? Nyambati Brian, even a kindergarten child can think better than... Well, I thought this Moses Kuria issue is done. So we'll get to that question of what is being done to make sure general is back. Still on this foreign envoys thing. When Uhuru Kenyatta was suspected of a number of things, including forcible transfer of populations and all that, I remember they went around the country and the song was, we need to be left as a sovereign nation to make our decisions. And in fact, at some point, it was being put as if ICC was a NASA project. So what has changed?
I mean, it is good that you remind your viewers of where we have come from, because it was very clear during the campaign in 2013 that any effort by the West was seen as the reintroduction of imperialism by our friends in Jubilee. And they made a lot of noise against these people, said, oh, hatutakubali wazungu, watuambie.
Yeah. I mean,
Right
there were even demonstrations at the
But
Hague itself.
the world order is such that, Baggy, unfortunately, for many countries, successive governments, first of all, identify what the interests of the citizens are. A good government will pursue the interests of its own citizens. But then there are regimes that identify very quickly what the interests of the foreigners are. And for as long as you identify strongly with the interests of the foreigners, those people really don't care how you treat your citizens. It is a truth in very many places, including China and even in places in Africa. So for as long as, for instance, you have oil, and the oil is flowing, the defense contractors are able to sell you arms, the oil companies, the Exxon Mobils, the big oil farms from the US are able to siphon out the oil. It doesn't matter if you are killing people like was happening in Nigeria and Biafra. So even here in Kenya, we know for a fact that the Western envoys, because this government of Uhuru has decided not to put the interests of Kenyans first, but the interest of the investors, foreign investors, whether they are Chinese, American, or British, then their interests are aligned. It might be the devil, yes, but for as long as the devil is getting me what I need out of this country, then that is fine. For instance, for us as a coalition, we took a stand against the operation in Somali. The operation in Somali was supposed to be a Linda Inchi operation, not Uza Makaa operation.
Okay.
Yes. So it is in the interest of the Americans, for instance, that that operation in Somali continues. Whereas for us, we know that our sons, our brothers and sisters who work in the KDF, who serve in the army, are dying unnecessary deaths. For instance, the attack on Elade, you remember all these things. Families are grieving in this country. We have said that if our objective going into Operation Linda Inchi was to expel Al-Shabaab from the country, then we have pushed them far back enough. Let's now come and defend our own borders. But for the Americans, they want Kenyan troops to be present there as substitutes to American troops. There are no American troops being killed in Somalia. It's Kenyans. So once you express such things, and of course there's vast business interest by Americans in the UK here. You know the issue of the UK base here in Laikipia. There is even news broke of a major road construction project of a dual carriageway from Mombasa all the way to Malaba, or is it Nairobi, which is being funded and constructed by the Americans. So whoever it is that can secure their business interest, then Kenyan interests take a secondary position. So for them, this issue they keep harping as Americans that, oh, they are pro-democracy. America is not pro-democracy. America is pro-business. So here, for as long as Uhuru is able to secure their business interests in the country, he can do what he wants. So they have abandoned all the calls on electoral justice, human rights. You will remember that even after the election of August, they were very quick to endorse the victory of Uhuru Kenyatta. And they were left with egg on the face when the Supreme Court, having looked at what happened, went ahead to annul that election. And they were a bit careful this time round on the 26th, but you can see they are creeping out of their cocoons and now making it obvious which side of the divide they support. So it is something that is expected. Even for me, I don't pay much attention to what the envoys are saying, because they don't stand for truth, they don't stand for justice, they don't stand for human rights, they only stand for business, and that is what matters to them.
Wow, I mean, it's really unfortunate, because in the 90s, I remember ambassadors like Smith Hempston were really in the front line. And the US was really in the front line in the second liberation and the democratization of Kenya. It's such a U-turn. I mean, it leaves us with our mouths gaping.
Yes, which is why, as our president said, we must now as Kenyans fully focus on solving these problems ourselves. We used to think that these people were friends of democracy, and that therefore if you are pro-democracy, then they were your friends by extension. But it is clear that we don't have any friends now. Kenyans are on their own. We have to fight for the country that we want to see for ourselves, not for the interest of any other person, but for our own interest and the interest of our children.
Very well, we're just winding up. Let me do some two quick comments. Obuya, watching from Boston. Emily Wekesa, you're saying Sifuna making us proud. Article 16 and 17, this is by Barney Lawrence. Citizen by birth can't be revoked. How can you deport a Kenyan born in Kisumu? Someone is saying, can I be deported to the US? Well, I don't know. If you want to go to the US, just get a visa. And there's a lady here. Well, she's asking, Sifuna, are you single? Well, I don't know. I thought...
I thought we cleared this.
I thought the discussion was clear.
Was closed.
Yeah. Very well, Sifuna, just your closing remarks as we wrap this up.
My closing remarks, Baggy, is, as I said at the beginning of this show, that fear is a tool of the oppressor. Right. Do not be afraid. I mean, I like the fact that even in the face of all the threats, even in the face of all the killings that we've witnessed here in Nairobi from this rogue regime, Kenyans still came out on the 30th to swear in their president. Right. That is the kind of thing that unsettles dictators, because they don't know what to do with you after you have lost fear as a human being. They don't know what to do with you after you've realized that there are more important things than dying. You should be able to fight for something